Welcome to Guardians of the Data. I'm your host, Ward Balzerzak. Each episode will explore the passions, expertise, and real-world experiences of security leaders who are helping the future of data security and governance. Guardians of the Data is made possible by support from Centra. To learn more about our AI-powered data security platform, please visit centra.io. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Guardians of the Data. My guest today has over 3 decades of experience between IT and cybersecurity roles. Currently the founder of Limitless Cyber and a CISO at a multi-billion-dollar healthcare system, Jason Elrod. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ward. You make me sound old.
I had to double-check timing. I was like, holy cow, you have been here around the block.
And then the earth cooled, and Jason was there, protecting the data of the dinosaurs. So what was it like back then?
Exactly. So let's jump into it. In your professional opinion, what's the biggest challenge organizations are facing with regard to data security?
Wow. I think a couple of years ago it'd be a different answer than I have today. So a couple of years ago, I would have said it was about data inventory, data classification, context, and those kind of things. Today, I'm going to say it's AI.
Okay.
So AI is the biggest data threat vector of today's business and what I can project into the near future.
I think there's a lot of folks that would agree with you. And I think, for the viewers, any vendors that are viewing, they're all happy to what we're selling people need. It's the biggest challenge. So what do we do? What any tips, anything that you're thinking of, anything that you're doing yourself to kind of solve this problem?
Well, there's nuance to it. So the basic data security fundamentals still apply. They still apply. And I think what has happened, the reason why I say AI is probably the biggest threat vector right now, is because people are drifting away from the fundamentals. And they're saying, hey, AI is this thing over here, other thing over here. I'm just going to give it access to everything I have access to, all these other items here, without understanding that the tooling and the data governance and the data security aspects, those haven't changed. Yeah, and AI is a different way to access, a different way to implement or operate against that data, but it doesn't change the underlying fundamentals. So when I'm talking about, in this context, AI is the risk for data, you have to have your guardrails in place in the beginning. And when I talk about AI governance, I don't talk about AI governance theater, which I think a lot of folks have. Like, oh yeah, we've got these AI things and do these fantastic, wonderful items. And sure, give it access to everything, the data lake, the EMR, you name it, all my personal emails. Hard stop. I think we need to understand, what are the guardrails? What are the rational guardrails to put in place? If I want to provide AI access into a private data set, don't give it access to the private data set. Create a data set that you understand and is scoped correctly that you can provide it to. So you need to have that proxied relationship with your core data systems when implementing AI. I think it's a key component, a key step that folks are not necessarily taking. You have to arbitrate that access. You have to have a way to do it, and creating a bastion data set is probably the best way to do it right now, because then you can understand the scope, the classification, the context, and you have a better chance to understand the audit and controls associated with it.
Yeah, and so that's interesting because a lot of my conversations lately have also been about data quality, right? Not necessarily data security, but data quality, accuracy, age, all of that. Very really smart. Create a data set, feed AI that data set, and you can be relatively assured that quality and all of that is up to snuff at that point.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out, right? Gigo still counts.
Right.
So, but Gigo could be great in, great out. It's up to you. And you nailed it with data quality. If I have quality data, high confidence in that, then I'm going to have a higher confidence in the output or the systems that are interacting against that. And you have a better chance to do that by filtering it and understanding a rationalized data set.
I like something else you said. Actually, I like everything you said, but one thing I wanted to come back to was fundamentals still apply. This is another item that I've been telling a lot of folks. In fact, some people have come to me, face-to-face conferences, what have you, and they tell me AI is this huge, new, risky thing. And I kind of look at them and say, okay, explain. Let's talk about it. And they talk about it, and it's like, well, everything you just described is not new. It's literally just the fact that you've avoided, for one reason or another, deprioritized, what have you, those fundamentals that you should have been doing for the last 20 plus years. And guess what? AI has socked you right in the nose by showing your problem, right? That they made it easy for users to find data that they might not have, should not have access to at that point.
100%. It's like pointing at is that your car? Yeah, because we're towing it. You should have never parked there in the first place. And what's happening here is like, well, I've always parked there, but hey, now I want to use that space, and I can't use that space because it should have never been done in the first place. I've got a great saying I tell all my folks here: we should never do something efficiently that we should have never done in the first place.
Ooh, I think we have to steal that one. That's a good one.
Speaking in sound bites. But that is the truth. The underlying basics here, right? Do you have a good data inventory? Do you understand the classification? Do you understand the context? Do you understand the controls that need to be on there? And honestly, you know what the perimeter for that? That's identity. Do you know the right identities that need to be able to access that data, or can access data, to what extent, where, when, how, and for how long? Fundamentals. When you have that established in your organization or in your model, your operating model here, plugging AI on the top is not an issue. It's actually very rational and can be a lot more seamless than, hey, why don't you give me an API connection into the data lake? Heck to the no.
Just give us access to everything. Trust us.
I'm API native. Let's just hook that mother lover up and go. Because unless you have those controls already in place, again, I would still suggest creating a bastion data set for the use specific context that you're deploying AI in, not to sort of generic, general, give it access to all and YOLO your way through to success. It's be rational about it. But those are the fundamentals, right? Data is the asset, identity is the perimeter, the classification context, determine the controls. That keeps you in the guardrails. Way better than, hey, I want to have access to this data because I think there's something good in there, so just connect me in there and we'll just hope. Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that are doing that though. I hear horror stories from a lot of partners, a lot of organizations themselves where, AI really hit mainstream, we'll say 2 to 3 years ago, where it really started becoming a big thing that everyone wanted access to. And, typical security teams, unfortunately, a lot were not ready for it, and it was wide open, and voila, right? Folks had access, folks are plugging into their data, and there you go. So for those organizations that find themselves already behind, right? Like the box is already opened, AI is out, AI is everywhere. Any thoughts on what they might be able to do to not stuff it back in the box, but maybe build a fence around it so it can't get anywhere else?
You're not going to stop it. I mean, you're right. You're not going to stop it from being an integral part of whatever your business is, whatever your value proposition is. That said, you need to fall on your sword and stop it. Okay, full stop. You need to say, okay, great. We screwed up as an organization. Own that. Set your ego aside. Say, hey, we screwed up as an organization, and we didn't have these fundamentals in place. So we have to slow the organization down from deploying these new fancy tools because we have a balsa wood foundation here, and I cannot build a skyscraper on that. I can't do that. There are no roots to this because before you could have a much better understanding, a better curated access this account, this role, this data set back and forth. You had sort of these one-to-one, sometimes one-to-many relationships of what you could access to. You had to go after it. Now it's AI says, hey, you don't have to be that specific. You don't have to be a data scientist to have data scientist level results now because I can do that for you. Problem is, our data sets, back to that, the fundamentals were never structured for us to have data scientist level activity occur against them because they are very vague. They are maybe a little bit too wide in scope, a little too deep in fidelity for the use cases. And so whatever you can do is, again, start with some sort of framework. Say, hey, you know what? We got to deal with data security before we can talk about AI security. Let's talk about the foundations. In order to have data security, what do we need? We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. In order to have AI security, what is it? It's 6, 7, 8, 9. It doesn't start at 5. You have to have that foundation. You build your security and your parameters around that. If people are already, you know, they've built this like a white aspen and they've gone straight up and out onto boom, look at this. I'm delivering so much value. You know, one whack, that thing's going down. You, you want to be able to apply the rationale. It's okay. Nobody is an expert in AI, in everything AI right now. We are all learning while doing it. Still, you're gonna be people like, hey, they've done some really interesting things in pockets and in verticals. And I had a great conversation with a friend of mine about this, and she was really highlighting this. But end to end, nobody's the expert. We are all learning how this interacts, both in our business use cases and our security and compliance and privacy and all those other components we need to do. So how do you get to that organization? You have to own your mistakes. Get humble. I was not prepared for this, or we were not prepared for this. Own it, then say, okay, great. If we were, what's the gap? Can we pause what we're doing, clear that gap, prioritize the use cases where we are experiencing actual ROI, not just interest on investment, IOI, right? Interest on investment, whatever. How about a return? Where we're actually experiencing that, let's start prioritizing them, and then boom, shift them to the appropriate models. So there does have to be a pause. There does have to be an acceptance of responsibility in an organization, from the board all the way down to the individual contributor.
Jason, I'll tell you, when you started your answer, I heard something. Sounded like metal, sounded like pitchforks sharpening. I mean, I heard the bit because you said pause, right? You said pause, you said slow down. And, you know, I think we've all been there. I know I have, where, you know, the business wants to move quick and those gosh darn security guys are pumping the brakes, putting up roadblocks, whatever. I don't think that's what you were saying, though. I don't think you were saying stop everything, right? I think you were saying pause for a time, let's evaluate, let's figure out the proper move, put in the right items, and then move forward again. So no pitchforks, right? We're good?
Oh, well, no, cybersecurity is a consequence career. There are consequences. If you're going to be a CISO at a larger organization, you know, 1 billion, 2 billion, 7 billion, eventually you start talking about real numbers here. You have to be able to take a hit, but you don't, it's not through mandate. Okay. What it is through conversation. Understand, where are we using this? Why are we using it? What's the context? Okay, let's prioritize it, move it there. Let's slow the roll on things that are just sort of exploratory, and the things where we're actually, and so those do get a pause or a stop. I'm just playing. Great. Go to your room.
Yeah. Knock it off.
No playing outside. Knock it off. You don't get to. Hey, we're deploying it here because we're seeing a measurable difference in the way that we're doing revenue cycle here, and we're able to actually process things a lot better. Or we're solving periodic access reviews in a much more coherent and quick fashion. Okay, great. Let's grab those use cases where we're seeing actual relevant value. Let's prioritize though and say, how do we do those best? And let's pause the other ones until we lock down the ones where we have an actual return on investment, either planned or the one we're actualizing right now. Then work on it, then get it locked down, and then start folding things into it. Because I guarantee you, most organizations don't understand AI inventory, let alone their data inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had it for years within technology, shadow IT, shadow SaaS, shadow AI now, because just about everything has AI, or they claim they do, right? Some form of AI these days. But shadow data, absolutely, right? Not knowing all the data repositories, data types, its sensitivity. It's this compounding problem where we're seeing in just about every organization out there.
Yeah. Data lineage is a problem. And what I mean, a lot of times I might have control here in source system and I copy it out to sort, bastion system too. Well, what happens if somebody takes a step from here and goes 3, 4, 5 n? So how are we controlling that? How are we understanding it? So data inventory does not necessarily mean just here, just source systems. It's when data moves and I find a piece of data and I can say, where's that lineage? Where did it come from? Where was your dad, your grandpa, your great grandpa? Where did you come from? Let me pull an ancestry inside my organization there. So again, back to fundamentals around data management. So if I am am I authorized to do this? Is this unauthorized? If I find something in an unauthorized spot, what do I do with it? Delete it and say, do not pass go directly to see the CISO?
You've got time in your day for that, right?
Well, yeah, like I got time in my day for that one, right?
Whoops.
It's understanding like these are fundamentals. So a lot of when you're doing actual governance, data governance is the underpinning foundation of AI governance. Have a rock solid data governance plan and framework in place, then it's easier to have a more stable AI governance in place. And then you can start talking about how do we implement the value? How do we actually do AI versus just kind of use AI tools?
I think the data lineage piece is a very interesting part of what you just said, especially when you mentioned earlier, basically create a bastion of data for AI, right? And I know I wasn't thinking about it as you were saying. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, it makes sense. Like take the data sets that I want in there, maybe not sensitive data sets. Certainly only bring in data that's important to that AI use case, right? Don't need all of the things, just need the specific things. But pause, going back to fundamentals like you keep saying, let's make sure we're tracking, from point A to point B to point Z, right? Where this data is coming from, where it's going to, and certainly how it's going to be used.
Yeah. It's the boring fundamentals. Really is. Really, hey, you look healthy. What's your trick? I don't know. I try to move every day. I try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. There we go. Let's start with that.
Things.
Yeah, but I want a magic pill. Okay, I don't have any magic pills, but I tend to try to eat. What do you? Well, yeah, but what's the hack? There's no hack.
Yep. There's no hack. Do the things.
Do the things. I mean, if you skip this early stuff, I mean, we're talking about fundamentals and documentation and things like that. Um, you can pay the cost early in discipline in doing it right. You pay the cost, and it's like, it seems so hard. I don't want to write everything down. I just want to do stuff. YOLO. Look at my career. But when you skip early stuff, what we're talking about here and there, you skip the data governance, you skip the data foundation, you skip these components. That's going to become stress that you carry around for years. And we're experiencing it now. That's the stress. So because we haven't paid the cost earlier in discipline, so we get to pay now in anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% spot on. We've been talking a lot about AI more so in the business sense, right? Business group wants to do this thing. I'm curious your thoughts. Another place that I'm seeing a lot of AI pop up, and it makes sense, right? It's popping up everywhere, is helping the blue team, right? Helping the defense in security. Um, Lots of tools have it. Some organizations are trying to build even, AI agents, if you will, to assist their SOC or other teams. So I'm curious your thoughts. Like, I'm assuming same fundamentals as everything we've just been talking about, right? Make sure you have those guardrails and all of that. But any other thoughts around AI usage specific to security use cases?
I love the call out there on the blue teams. You have to use AI. You have to use AI because to defend at AI speed, you need AI. Because guess what? We're already being attacked at AI speed. There's absolutely no way us biologics can actually keep pace with that. We can't do it. Sorry. So you have to do it. So it is an inevitability. So it is essentially the table stakes of today, even if you don't have it at your table, it is a table stake. And so if you're not using it today, you're already missing the boat. So you need to be able to fold that in wherever possible, augment your team. So I'm not saying replace it. I say you need to use these tools to automate, augment, and amplify your team as much as possible. Not so much offload. It's not the AI's job to do all of it, but it can be. When I talk about automation from that standpoint, you automate the tasks, you automate the things that would normally slow down the human in the loop so they can react to it. And when you have a really good pattern, really good playbook for something, yeah, you can let it automatically block, stop, tackle, understand, elevate these things because the attacks are going to come in at speed. So you're going to have to implement it because if you're not, you should be beholden to the gravity of the past. You're anchored to some black hole of how you used to do things. Guess what? That event horizon is going to suck you in and you're going to pop out. I don't know where it is, some other dimension. It's just not going to be here. and you're not going to be able to keep pace. So you have to keep pace. You have to implement AI. This is very context specific again. So understand like, hey, this is where I need real value. AI doesn't, to totally own us, AI does not need to be smarter. It just needs to be kind of good at it because it does it at a velocity that way outpaces us. So that's where we're seeing a lot of the attack, the offensive AI come in.
Yeah, I was just going to say the bad guys are using it, right? It's a tool for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Early adopters, crowdsourcing. And so we have to act. We have to have parity. Love it. Love it.
Well, Jason, it's clear that, like I mentioned earlier, 3 decades of experience. You've been doing this for a while. What was your journey? How did you get to not only being the founder of a company, but being a CISO at a very large healthcare system?
I'd love to say it was inspiration. It was desperation. That's how it started. That is honestly it. So founded a company back in the 90s and it was a technology company and found out that there was nobody doing this work. So you had to be that. You had to, in the real world, counter hack. I'm not saying I ever counter hacked anybody. I'm just I'm just saying you had to be familiar with the techniques. Because it was very emergent. It was emergent. There was nobody to go to. There was no system to go to. And so stepping into that space, being a technologist for a long time, really being deeply technical in it, then getting interested in it, saying, hey, well, there's an adversary on the other side. There is a human element here to this interchange. And it's very interesting, and I still love it to today. So mainly desperation, like, who is this joker on my system? Why is he doing this here? So you start with that, and then you extrapolate from there. You get better, you get faster, you get stronger, you learn more, you make a lot of mistakes, you get knocked down, you get back up, and you keep going from there over time. And you try your best to learn on each step of the way here. I mentioned fundamentals. Do the time. Don't skip the fundamentals. Learn the fundamentals. Learn networking, learn firewalls, learn some scripting, learn how the address space works on the internet. Then start learning how business systems and capability flow in. Always be learning. I think that's really always be learning. Be a voracious learner and apply it and try it. And don't worry if you get it wrong because you're going to get it wrong. Get back up, learn from it, and get better. Don't make the same mistake twice if you can avoid it. That's the point. Make some mistakes, just not the same one multiple times. Because if you do that, we may need to talk. And so I think over time, that's really how it pulled that way. I used to run data centers for financial organizations, like three big data centers. So I was familiar
data centers. What are that? We have the cloud now. There's no more data centers.
It was before they metamorphosized into clouds. before they vaporized and became floaty, puffy things. Um, yeah, so you manage data so you understand things, systems at scale. And then from finance, I moved into critical infrastructure, healthcare. I've been in healthcare now for about 15 years, I think, ostensibly in this role for most of it.
So, joking aside, I'm curious your thoughts here. We're kind of in an interesting place, at least in my opinion, right now here in early of 2026. We're seeing layoffs happen quite a bit. AI replacing jobs, or at least companies trying to use AI to replace jobs or cut costs or what have you. And as such, there's a lot of folks, a lot of really smart folks that are out there looking for their next opportunity. Maybe they still have a job and just looking for the next opportunity. And I'm seeing a lot of posts lately on LinkedIn around people feeling like they just can't keep up. They can't keep up with the technology and they feel like they're getting phased out. Um, so you mentioned before, hey, you used to manage data centers. We joked they evaporated, they went. Like you've been through in your career just hyper changing of technologies and
Yeah, a few big changes actually. Yeah.
yeah, and you're still here, you're still relevant. You're in a very, very big position, again, CISO, a multi-million dollar company. Outside of, continuing to learn and all that, any other tips you'd give to our listeners that may be in that boat today?
I'm going to go with this one. Pick your battles. Pick your battles. A lot of folks are trying to outwork AI. Guess what? You can't. Don't try to out AI. Don't try to outwork AI. Outframe it. Okay. Don't try to outwork it, outframe it. So, what are the things and the skills that we as a society should never deliver to AI? We should never hand over to AI. What are those skills? Discernment. There's morality built into there's structural, there's value built from it, there's integrity. There's a lot of things that AI can never do or should never do. So I'm going to say to folks who are like, "Hey, I'm struggling where it is. AI is coming from my job." Yes, then find out how you can become AI's manager, right? Don't try to out compete it when something is hyper specialized for that competition. Pick your battles. In this case, don't try to outwork AI, outframe it. And by outframing it, I mean find the real value that it should deliver on, the promise of AI. And that comes not from AI, it comes from us. Somebody the other day was saying, hey, this is the beginning of the end because the AI apocalypse is here. And I prefer a different opinion. I say this is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. It's the end of the beginning as to what we can do with technology. Everything is led up to this as a foundation. So look at it like a foundation. These are all the things that have led to this point. If I call this, hey, this is the end of chapter 1 now, what is the rest of this book going to look like? Using these tools, implementing them, optimizing them, focusing them, guarding them, protecting them, attacking them. Find the construct around the meta around the AI itself. So outframe it, don't try to outwork it.
I like that. And I like how you said figure out how to become its manager. I think that's a good one too.
Completely. Like, I've got new digital employees. And I'm like, okay, well, who's this manager? Right? Ward over here. Talk to Ward, He has his own little AI army,
Oh man, I love it. I love it. So, Jason, I know you do more things other than just being the founder of Limitless Cyber, being the CISO. What else? What other big things do you do in case folks want to follow you and connect up with some of your content?
Uh, you know, Follow me on LinkedIn, find me on YouTube, Limitless Cyber. I do have a podcast that I expect Ward to show up on sometime. It is Drink Coffee, Do Cool Stuff. We talk about just that, drinking coffee and doing cool stuff. So, yeah. So Drink Coffee, Do Cool Stuff. That's on Spotify. That is on YouTube as well. Follow me on LinkedIn. Check it out at limitlesscyber.com or at Limitless Cyber on all the socials. Thanks for that, Ward.
Love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jason, thank you. I'm glad we were finally able to get this episode together. It's been a long time coming. I really appreciate you joining me today, sir.
My pleasure. This is awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. And big thank you to the audience. Really hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something. Please tell others in your network to follow and listen. This has been another exciting episode of Guardians of the Data. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Guardians of the Data. Thanks for tuning in. For show notes and more, visit guardiansofthedata.show. Guardians of the Data is made possible by support from Centra. To see how we help organizations discover and classify all of their data accurately and automatically while quickly achieving petabyte scale data protection without the fuss, please visit centra.io. Catch you next time.